And we're live with the Brother Side Podcast. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
Today we have a great guest with us. We have Mr. Andy Alloway, president of Nebraska Realty. How you doing, Andy?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you.
Today our drink of choice is Miller Lite. And why is that?
That's a great question. I'm a beer, scotch, wine guy, and so I kind of gave the options. I figured beer would be easier here,
Yeah.
I don't think a podcast is like a wine thing, right? So
No, definitely not.
I would say definitely not this podcast.
well,
We're not cultured enough to be wine. We're kind of like the barefoot kind of people.
Yeah, well,
barefoot wine.
I'm not a barefoot. $2 Chuck's pretty
there you
good.
go.
I don't know. Miller Lite is it's what I drink. My girlfriend does Coors, so she would not approve of this. But
Banquet Coors or like Coors Light?
she's a Coors Light. She likes the red beer stuff.
Okay, all right.
I don't. It's disgusting. You put tomato juice in it.
I do. I would do
Yeah,
it
we
in
do
the
that.
morning, like if I plan on drinking all day.
Well, I mean, I love a Bloody Mary,
Right.
usually when you're on vacation or something. But
Yeah.
and I'm not a big tomato juice fan. They're great in that, but the red beer is awful.
I can get
Have you
down
tried
with it.
orange juice beers?
I did once.
Yeah.
I don't like fruity stuff. I'm like, if beer should just be beer. Coffee should be coffee.
I'm
No
with
sugar.
you there.
Creamer?
No creamer. I don't
Okay.
need all the stuff. Wine should be dry, and scotch should be, well, I'm still doing it with ice cubes, so my friends that are really scotch drinkers
Yeah.
will say, neat, you shouldn't put any water in there, but
God,
not a lot of
scotch
food.
is-
It's like gasoline.
Yeah, I can't
No?
stand scotch.
Damn, I should have chose scotch. I
Yeah,
should have
yeah,
brought the
you
bottle.
just watch us suffer,
Yeah.
get through these
Here's
drinks.
another sip.
Yeah, I'm with you on black coffee though, all the way.
Yeah.
And speaking of coffee, this is the first chance we've got to.
Show the swag off. We
Show
got
the swag.
Brother Side coffee cups now.
You want me to show them off?
Yeah,
sure.
I think
Yeah,
we
why
should
not?
Get in
whip
there.
those
While you're
things
getting
out.
in there, though, we have some commonalities here. You're a Miller North Mustang.
I am.
Justin.
I
is a
too
Miller
am a
North
Miller North Mustang.
Really?
Yes.
What year?
02.
Oh, so you're younger than me.
Yeah, I
What
know.
year were you?
Your hair
95.
definitely makes you look younger. That's for sure.
That's cool. I like
what
that.
year did you?
Graduated in 95.
Okay.
And played basketball and baseball for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hung out with all the football guys, and Coach Petito's still doing it there at Miller.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
rocking it.
Yep.
He
Yep.
looks
running
the
around in a
same, too.
sweatsuit.
He
The
does.
guy doesn't age.
He doesn't.
No.
Honestly, I don't know how he does it, but
Yeah, still running around in his sweats,
Uh-huh.
with the giant sweat ring down his chest, just gray sweats. That's how I remember it.
well,
Go ahead.
he used to at the end of the school year, there'd be clothes left over in the locker room. They kind of get together and have their own garage sale. I'll take that and that. I think that's what he wore for the next year or whatever.
Yeah.
I believe it. Yeah, I was not an athlete at Miller North. Tried,
Yeah.
failed. Tried out for basketball, golf, and baseball.
You were
And-
close in baseball.
Yeah. Well, I kind of hit my growth spurt after, kind of later in high school, and I was small early in high school. And I was trying out. Not that that's an excuse, but that's what I'm going with for now.
Well, but at least you can say this. Like, your peak was later on. I think I was like 6'2", where I'm at now when I was going into high school. So I probably
wow.
peaked early and then hit a plateau,
Because
You were 6'2" going into high school?
It was pretty close. Yeah, I don't think I grew much after I got into high school. I was like I loved sports, played all the sports growing up, and as a young kid, I was always way bigger than everybody else. So I was probably better, and then I probably peaked early.
tapered off.
Yeah.
Could you throw down, like jam a basketball?
Gosh, I could back in
Yeah.
the day, but it was close. It was one of
it
those
doesn't
deals.
matter.
I wasn't blessed with super great ability in jumping, or I think I was good at everything, but I wasn't
great
at any one thing.
Sure.
That
Yeah.
goes a long ways in high school sports.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you could get up to the rim. Justin and
I could touch the rim.
we can touch. That's not dunking.
No, I know, but I'm 6 foot, touching the rim, 2 hands.
Yeah.
That's still,
That's good.
yeah, I
do
can
it?
still do it. I mean, I haven't tried for a while. COVID.
COVID ruined my jumping.
I haven't just been in gyms
Good call.
jumping up and grabbing rims here recently, but before COVID, yeah, I could still touch rim 2 hands.
Wow.
Which
Okay.
I don't want to brag or anything, but
Sometimes it was just about your hands weren't big enough to.
to
the
yeah,
big
I
ball,
couldn't.
Right.
I
So
couldn't,
you had to do the mini balls to.
Yeah,
If you
right.
were
Tennis
not
ball.
this close on getting over the rim.
I could get a tennis ball through, but that's not dunking.
No,
Not really.
but that's
That doesn't
everybody's
count.
like go to. I can dunk a tennis ball. Like,
Yeah.
sweet dude. How often are you gonna do that in a game? You know.
Do you watch? Are you an NBA guy? You watching the playoffs?
You know, I haven't watched any of the playoffs.
Yeah.
I've never been a super big. Well, I should take that back. When I was young, I mean, basketball was my first love, and then I was probably better at baseball. And had I had to do it all over again, I would have played golf because that's probably the one I had most talent in. But I was a Bird, Magic, and Jordan fan. I mean, that was to me that was the renaissance, the heyday of NBA. Loved it, and then. Once Jordan kind of retired, I liked college more, and I didn't watch a whole lot of NBA. It just became one-on-one league to me.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I just haven't watched a ton probably in the last 10 or 15 years. But my daughter is 12, my son is 10, and they're both really athletic, and I coach them in basketball and different sports. And so I watch a lot more of it now usually with them. But with COVID and the stop-start, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like a traditional seasonality person. I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
NBA should have been done in June. I just don't have an interest. It's like I love golf, but when football rolls around in August every year, I don't play golf anymore because I just want to watch football. And so
I'm with you.
kind of ingrained in those patterns. I
Yeah.
guess.
That's how I am too. I've watched maybe one NBA game this whole time.
And we've talked about it. The bubble's been weird.
Yeah.
Like for the NBA, it's
Yeah.
been weird. I think that the best teams have kind of risen to the top because there's no home court advantage.
Right.
So because of that, you do see the best teams here at the end. And to me, I do watch, but it's kind of been fun just to watch the pureness of the game, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. You just don't see a lot of the acting and stuff for the fans, and it's just more just basketball.
Which I mean, and that I appreciate because I didn't like I said, it was the one-on-one nature. I love a lot of the college game or the throwback that you're working in unison, and that's what I love about coaching the younger kids. It's complete team game. But you're right. I mean, it probably has taken some of that hype out of it. Although it's fun to watch them go to the opposing arena. I mean, that's the whole point, right? It's entertainment. Once you get to that level, it's not like you're playing club ball because it's just fun anymore. It's an entertainment thing. So to take a lot of the entertainment out, it does miss an element. But
for
I guess
sure.
they're doing their best. I
Like a
suppose.
big three, and the crowd just goes nuts, and it's like, we got to call a timeout to slow down momentum.
Right.
I mean, that still happens to a degree, but it's definitely not the same.
I can't stand the cutout things and like the pumped in music.
Yeah.
or the noise. I mean,
It is pretty ridiculous.
I don't know.
Yeah, you said Bird and Magic. I mean, they kind of saved basketball. I mean, the NBA was struggling when they came in. The rivalry that the Celtics Lakers had. I mean, that kind of saved the NBA.
Yeah,
and
it
then
100%.
Michael came along. And
Did you watch The Last Dance?
I watched
That was
almost most. I think there was one or two I missed, but
What a competitor, huh?
he's the GOAT. I don't care what anybody says, and even my son who's 10, right? He wears 23, and it ain't for LeBron. He knows he's got. When he first started playing, is when I first got him his first pair of Jordans, and I've saved them all the way
that's
up.
cool.
And he knows who, and my daughter knows who the GOAT is.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree. Just how do you feel on that one?
I think Michael was really good.
LBJ
He was great.
over here.
I am a LeBron guy, although I know they played in two different eras. It's different style of basketball. I just think that LeBron is a little bit more diverse. Now, Michael was an excellent scorer, like unbelievable
Just a
competitor. I think he was just a slightly better version of a Kobe. Just you need a bucket, he can go get you a bucket. But I mean, he was never a leader in assists. Great defender.
Yeah.
Decent rebounder. I don't want to get too
Yeah,
deep
let's
into
not
it,
get too
but-
deep into this. Yeah,
But I am.
You're gonna throw your microphone across the room.
No,
right
but
now.
I'm a LeBron guy. Although I told Aaron last night because I was watching the Lakers game last night. And I'm like, LeBron's lost a step. I mean, it's pretty obvious now. And he's
17 years.
yeah,
though.
he's logged more minutes than anybody in NBA history.
Hey, I'll give him number 2.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
number
he's just
two
not
ain't
number
bad.
one.
Number
that's
two
right.
ain't bad.
That's right.
So yeah. Anyway,
He got blown away in the MVP votes, didn't he?
I know, and I think that was a little
Yeah, like
unfortunate. He had a
13 votes.
really good year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was mad about it. We'll see who.
They were
ends up
talking
the
about
title.
that though. Like he hasn't won very many MVPs, right? Like
He has 4.
He has 4. Okay. Well, they were kind of mentioning, man, shouldn't he have won a lot more? Because is there anybody more valuable to the team? And probably the answer is no. I mean, it's not like Giannis. He's certainly deserving.
Oh yeah,
But
Giannis
over the
is
course
awesome.
of 17 years, he probably should have about 8 or 10 of them.
Oh,
honestly.
I would agree.
Yeah.
every team he moves to,
It's-
just gets dramatically better.
And it, back when they were, I mean, when he was like getting them, it was the same thing kind of with Michael a little bit. It was LeBron fatigue,
Right.
You know,
Right.
even though they thought he was deserving or probably could earn it. You know, these other young and up and coming
Right.
guys, that were exciting, and voters just kind of wanted to go a different direction.
Yeah, just like football, college football, like Nebraska fatigue in the '90s and Alabama now, right?
Yeah,
Are they ever going to be bad, Alabama?
when
know.
Saban retired.
Yeah, no
right.
kidding.
Because they were not good before Saban. Like
No.
they kind of went through a slump
Yeah.
for a long while, where they were not all that competitive.
Yeah, from about the early '90s to the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not like
But
they've
they're
been
just
this
so
powerhouse
dominant
forever.
now. It's unreal. Well, I mean, Clemson is too.
They weren't even in the
but-
playoff last year for the first time.
Yeah, first time in how many years?
I don't know.
It's cyclical, though.
It is.
The decade has been dominated by them, right? The last 10 years, and Clemson too. But didn't you think about that, like in the early 2000s, about Miami? I mean, they were like so good,
Oh.
and then USC came along for about 5 years, and you're like, these people, they'll never lose.
Right.
Yeah.
And then a few things happen, and
Yeah.
they kind of get knocked back.
Yep.
So we're waiting for the cycle to come back on Nebraska.
Yeah, we've been waiting a long
It's our
time.
turn. It's our turn.
I hope.
We're going to get blown away by Ohio State.
Yeah.
No, we're not. I think Nebraska can score on Ohio State because their defense. They lost a ton of players on defense to the NFL. Their offense almost brought everyone back, so they're going to be hard to stop. But I think we can score. We won't be able to score enough.
Right.
But I don't know about blowout.
I hope not. I mean,
Yeah.
I think most Husker fans are pretty realistic, right? They just want them to go out, and they know that it takes a while to get back, to put the people in place, but they want to go out and have a good showing. They don't want to
Yeah.
go out and be, every time you look like you shouldn't belong on the same field with that. I mean, they got a lot of pride here, and so
Yeah.
you go out and you put up a fight like they did 2 years ago too.
Yep.
And could have easily won it. I mean,
Could have won that game.
I think Nebraska, they want to win, of course, but as this march back, and I think most people think Frost is the right guy, and it takes time, but you go out and have a good showing. I mean, that builds on it,
Oh yeah.
You have a tailgate down there, don't you?
We've tailgated, so no, not like a consistent. We do our Nebraska Realty, so we'll do a tailgate every year. We pick an away game, and we have it at our office in Omaha. So
Yep.
we'll have about 450, 500 people out at our office,
Sweet.
and we'll blow it up, the game in the parking lot. Like one year, we hung a screen from the building, so it was like 30 foot by 40 foot.
Wow.
It had a projector on there, so you're driving down Dodge Street. And the game's projected, and then we had a blow up one over here, and we've got a patio outside. So, and we have food trucks, and we get all kinds of stuff for the kids. And that's
What
just
game
part of
was
what we
it?
do. That game was one that didn't end up well, which is most of them.
There hasn't been a lot of
don't
recent
actually-
success.
Honestly, I
For
don't
road
really-
games
A
especially.
couple of them, I think last year we did like Minnesota or something. You're like,
Yeah.
geez. So,
I haven't actually made it to one of those yet.
you haven't?
No.
Well,
I always have something going on for some reason.
of course, we had one scheduled this year, and that wasn't going to happen. So
No. That's unfortunate. Let's switch gears here. So you went to Northwest Missouri State, exercise science, and then you were a trainer for the Milwaukee Brewers. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I went to Northwest. I love sports, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so, I knew I wasn't going to be a pro athlete, so I wanted to stay in sports. So what are some of the fields? And, originally I thought, well, maybe a sports journalist. I'm like, that's a lot of writing. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, then how about strength and conditioning? Because, I did work out a lot and with a lot of the teams and love sports to be around it. So that's ultimately what I had graduated with, and then I sought to pursue something in football. Mm-hmm. So I tried to get internship. I did an internship at Iowa State with their football team 1 year. So that was,
What'd you do
awesome.
for your internship?
So I was a strength coach for Iowa State as an unpaid assistant
Sure.
intern over a summer conditioning. So we did all their summer training from about the end of May through the first part of August, right before two-a-days. So I went through their whole program with them over summer. So it was cool.
I heard
Yeah.
you were pretty cut up back in the day. Is that right?
No, man,
No?
I'm about 185 pounds now.
Okay.
Back then, that year, so that was right before my right before I graduated. So my last semester, I was about 270 pounds.
Holy.
Oh man.
Yeah, I should have brought in my picture.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Well, so because I thought, hey, I'm going to be a strength coach, and I wanted to do football or basketball. Basketball would have been cool, but you didn't have as much back then. And so, I got to be big. So we were, dabbling in powerlifting and doing all those things because you wanted to experience what you're trying to learn and teach, right?
Yeah.
And my best friend from Millard played football at Millard North and then played at Iowa State.
Who's that?
His name was Mike Hansen, and he was he got recruited as a tight end there, and then he switched to defensive end. And after a couple of years, he had, I don't think, 3 or 4 concussions, and he had to retire. So he was actually part of the strength staff as well.
Okay.
Super strong, big guy, and so you're wanting to be around those. It's kind of hard to say, well, I'm a distance runner around all these football players, right? Because you just train differently.
Sure.
So there's an element of credibility saying, yeah, this is what I do too,
Right.
and
Listen to what I'm saying.
right.
Yeah.
And so you do that. It wasn't all. It certainly wasn't 270 pounds worth of cut up muscle.
Pure muscle.
Yeah, right.
Just ripped.
I wish.
I can't picture you at 270.
I know that is
Yeah.
difficult to.
We just moved. I broke out that picture to my girlfriend a week ago, and she was like, "Really? All right."
Yep.
I have no
that
neck.
was me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get shit at the office? Does that picture come out at the office?
Yeah, it hasn't. And
Not,
and I'll
let's
say,
keep it that way.
Not yet.
well, we've got a couple guys too on our team that are world class power lifters at Nebraska Realty, and they've been there for several years. So they always joke. They always want to see these pictures.
It's not
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, definitely not me.
No.
Not with these knees.
No.
So I went to the Brewers, I guess, because after I graduated, that was the opportunity that was available. I wrote Nebraska a few times about possibly even being an intern down there with Boyd Epley, and I finally got a nice comment back. They kind of hire from within, so that wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Brewers, they needed strength coaches at this time. It was still in baseball, kind of in its infancy. So they wanted coaches at all levels of their minor league system. So they said, yep, come out to spring training. And so I did that for a month, and I was stationed in high A ball out in Stockton, California. And so I did the Cal League all that summer. And then out of the 5 or 6 minor league coaches, strength coaches, they invited me back to do fall instructional league. And so I went back to Phoenix, which is where their spring training hub is, and went through that. And they said, hey, we want to offer you the coordinating position for the minor leagues. And so I was 23. And it was a great gig, though, right? You're 23, you're in California.
Sweet.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I mean, we were in A ball, so I had the number 1 prospect with the Brewers on our team. This is a 19-year-old kid that's throwing 101 miles an hour.
Jeez.
And just being around the whole lifestyle, and I was around athletes my whole life, so it fit well for me. But at night, we'd be at the park all day, and then sometimes if we had an off day or off 2 days, which was rare, Tahoe was about 3 hours away. So some of these guys as agents would call up and get rooms down in Tahoe, and I'd go down with them. I mean, I'm
Tag
just one of the
along.
coaches.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
going,
Hey, can I go, guys?
right? And so I slept on a couch with our trainer, so I was the strength coach, and we had our team trainer. And I slept on the couch of a morning show DJ who was actually the number 1 morning show DJ in Northern California. And why he was in Stockton, I have no idea. But we were the Mudville 9. That was the team name. So if, put me in coach, I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
That's the song about the Mudville 9.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so he loved this team. So he'd go out and shag balls and stuff with us. And so he allowed us to stay at his apartment, basically. And he'd always invite us. He goes, man, we got these shows in San Francisco this weekend. And San Francisco was about 80 miles away. And it was all, at the time, it was Snoop Dogg and Dre and all the big time. He goes, we'll get you guys backstage, no problem. Never once went, because we were always at the park.
Just because you had to work.
Oh, we were at the park until 10
yeah.
or 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
So.
Bummer.
So what got you out of the Brewer organization then? I mean,
Yeah.
because that sounds pretty sweet.
Well, it is, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
especially at
your
that age.
sports, the age just sounds like right up your alley.
it was a fantastic experience, like everything in life. I mean, I'm a big believer. My faith, I believe that things happen for a reason. But to me, it was they called me back for fall instructional league, And they said, look, we're going to offer you the coordinating position. Just go back home and we'll call you because we're working on our budgets. So I went back home to Omaha and I was like, well, I got to have something to do until spring training. And I was 23. I didn't really know other than that. I'm like, I got to do something until maybe they call back. Hopefully I can go back. I didn't know. So my buddy that I talked about before, he was kind of interested in real estate investment. I thought, oh, real estate. Well, I'm going to need a place to live if I go back down to Phoenix. So let's take some real estate classes. So there was an ad in the paper for something about real estate. And I called up and she goes, well, you have to have a real estate license. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So I started taking classes at Randall, which we now own, it's interesting how things have come full circle. And while I was about 2 weeks into my classes, they offered me the coordinating position for the entire minor leagues. It was $20,000 a year, no benefits, fly to all these cities in the Dominican like twice a year, and then they give you some meal money. I mean, that was it.
Wow.
And you had like these old roving instructors that have been around for 30 years that they're like, I don't need, strength coaches. You guys will get all bulky and they don't need this in baseball. So the ironic thing is, strength and conditioning was the height of the steroid era, right? And yet you had these coaches, I don't need this stuff, and you got these guys that are
cranking 70 homers a year.
Yeah.
Well, we would go down on a California, like on our we did 2 southern swings in the Cal League, and so when we go down to like Lake Elsinore, which was outside of San Diego, I'd have guys that we'd be there for 3-4 days. And so when they had some downtime, they'd swing across the border to Tijuana. And then they'd
wonder what they're doing over there.
Well, and right before that, they'd ask me. And so that's part of my job, though, is to know about, a lot of those things, which I did. And so I'd get these questions. Well, what is, if I, they'd ask questions and say, well, what does this steroid do? Or what does that one do? And so I'd be really analytical. I'd say, this is what these things can do, and here's the side effects. And so they do this, and a few weeks later, we'd be back home, and they'd come walking into the training room with no shirt on. You're looking kind of puffy there. And they just walk out, and it was interesting. I mean, it was just something that they did. There wasn't widespread testing. It was before a lot of that took place. And so, I mean, it was interesting. But when I was back, I was like, okay, $20,000 a year. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I liked the lifestyle, but what I found is I cared more about the aspect than a lot of these athletes did.
Yeah, that'd be hard.
Yeah, that's sad.
So you're almost like having to push them, rather than wanting to do it.
Yeah, guys. I mean, they should be beating me in the gym every day, right? And it was more I had to justify to guys who were somewhat. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like we're an A-ball, and we're made up of teams. Like the guys in this team, you think, okay, A-ball, well, maybe they're not as good or whatever. No, most of these guys were College World Series guys. They were MVPs. They were everything you would say. I mean, great baseball players. And, they just were like, well, why do I have to work out again? What's that? Well, you're 26 years old and you're still an A-ball. I shouldn't have to say anything else, But I think that's the unfortunate thing is a lot of these, the teams, they have such a passion for it. But most of them will never see that. And a lot of each team's probably made up for 3 or 4 prospects that are ultimately going to make those big leagues, but they got to field teams. So I guess that was a little bit of a factor for me. It was like, man, it's hard for me to go out and have to justify to you why you should go out and work out. I'm passionate about this stuff.
Right.
And some of the guys were, but a lot of them weren't. And so I just go, well, is that really what I want to do for the rest of my life? I mean,
yeah.
And so when I was back there, they said, hey, we need an answer on Monday or whatever. So I went to my real estate instructor at school that night, and I said, look, the Brewers have offered me this job. I'm either going to stay here in real estate because this is kind of intriguing to me, or I'm going to go back to Phoenix. And he said, well, go talk to this guy, Van Deeb. And I was like, all right, I'd never heard of him. And so I went and talked to Van, and obviously he was a great salesman, and I spent an hour with him. I was like, yep, I'm going to stay here and do real estate. And I called the Brewers and said, thanks, but no thanks. That's it, And so that's how it all started for me here, I guess.
What year was that?
That was in the fall of 2000.
Okay. So, and then you worked for Deeb for 9-10 years before you.
I
Yeah,
wor-
how did that transition work?
Yeah, so so after that conversation and called the Brewers, and then I went, Mr. Deeb had a company. We had about 20 or 25 agents at that time, and in just a small little strip center off of Dodge Street. And so I started off as an agent, and like a lot of agents, it's a straight commission business, right?
Yeah.
And so I needed something else to do. So I was training here. I was doing personal training and other things.
Yeah.
And working as an agent to build my business. And we had one part-time employee at the company at that point. And after about 6 months of me being there, that person decided they didn't want to do that anymore. So I told Van, I said, man, I'd be interested because I could make a little bit of money and I could learn more about the business. So I was fortunate that he hired me. And, I answered phones and did listing input and cleaned the toilets and whatever it needed, right?
Really?
Yeah.
And then we, later that year, Van had been around for about 8 years at that point with his own company. I mean, he was really successful in Dallas prior to that, and then came back and started his own deal out of his basement. And so he had kind of been around for about 8 years and had a really unique business model compared to the rest of our competitors. And I mean, that's one of the reasons I went was that, I mean, his business model. And so I think it really started to kind of take hold. He hired a general manager later that year that really helped us get the word out about what we did and who we were. And we started to really take off, and so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Doesn't Deeb have a story about he used to carry like a giant business card in his pocket or something? How does that go? Right?
Obviously,
Or
obviously he
keys
knows
or
something about it.
Yeah.
No, he totally did. He's a local guy, right? He
Yeah.
went to Burke and UNO and played football at UNO. Although he'd tell you he wouldn't characterize it as playing. He was interacting
Warming
with
up
the
the bench.
cheerleaders.
He was
more.
there.
Yeah.
He was hanging out with the cheerleaders, smoking cigarettes, I think. So when he left UNO, he went down to Dallas to kind of get out of Omaha, and he worked for a home builder for a couple years. And you didn't have to be licensed to do that at the time. And then he had all these clients, so he said, hey, I'm going to get my license. So he went out, joined RE/MAX, and within the first year, they had some kind of awards banquet. And so he went and listened to the gal that was like the top agent in Dallas, Mary Harker, or something like that. And so he took her to lunch, and just to pick her brain. And I don't know where he got this, but he did. He put I think it was a business card or it was an award that he got or something, right?
Yeah.
And it was
plaque in his pocket.
It was about an 8x10, and he put it on his keys, so it had to stay out of his pocket. So everywhere he went, he had this thing swinging around, so people would ask him. And then he would go and he'd say, man, he'd be standing in line at the supermarket, at the grocery store, and he'd pick up all the magazines and he'd throw his business card in every magazine. So when somebody opened it up, it would fall out,
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty smart.
I mean, not that
It's
that would
funny.
ever get you business,
Yeah.
but the point is, I mean, it is
Name
smart.
recognition, kind
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Is wherever you go, you tell somebody what you do.
Right.
And leave that trail. And obviously, he did that successfully. I mean, he became the top agent in Dallas out of knowing nobody. So, I mean, he's got a fantastic story of success. And then he brought, after about 11 years in Dallas, he came back here because his family was here. Didn't intend to stay down there, just his business took off. And so he worked for a company for about 6 months here. And then he said, you know what? I'm going to open up an agent-centric brokerage. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the traditional brokers were much more about, this is the broker and here's how we do things. And he goes, man, I was the top agent in Dallas, and I was the one that brought in the business, from my perspective. I serviced the business. And so he kind of turned the business model a little bit and said it's about the agent, not the broker.
Wow. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. We would like to thank Code 99. Do you need a certification in CPR for work, school, or for medical practice? Call Code 99 at 402-618-9004 to get certified today. And we're back with the brother side. We have Andy Alloway with us. We're just discussing, kind of his start in real estate. So tell us more about the transition from Deeb to you taking over Nebraska Realty.
Yeah, it was, like I said, we had a I worked for Mr. D for about 8 years, and he gave me my start. We really started to grow. It went from, I started there, we had 20 or 25 agents, and then, I was just fortunate. I was fortunate, I think, to be in the right business model, in the right community, at the right time that technology started to take over, that allowed us to do some things that, only large company brokers could probably do before that. So it was really fortuitous for me, I guess. And the fact that Mr. D gave me that start to be able to do that. And we had a general manager that he brought on, helped us really grow. And we moved, over about a 3-year period, we went from 20 agents to almost 100. And we moved out of our 1,500 square foot office space to, Van bought a building, it was about 6,000 square feet. And at that point, our general manager had taken another opportunity, and he was like, well, you want the job. So he hired me for that.
To be the general manager?
To be the general manager. So I've been in the business about 3.5 years at that point. And it was another great opportunity. So I kind of took over the reins of many of the operations associated with it. And I did that for about 5 years.
Were you still selling houses at that time too then?
Yeah, I
on
was.
The side, kind of?
For a period of time, yeah. So I until I got married, and my wife, or my ex-wife, she's still a realtor with us at Nebraska Realty.
Yeah.
But I met her there, and she is an agent. And so once I got married, then I kind of, said, here, if there's any deals, I'm way too busy doing this, because we had grown to be, a little over 300 agents from the time that I started as GM to the time that, I ended up buying it. And so I think, Van had been in the business for about 27 years. And he had gotten to the point where he'd accomplished a lot.
Yeah.
And I think his passions lied more. And this was right about, understand, I bought the company from him about 4 months after the market crash. So it was in January of 2009.
Great timing.
For real estate brokerage, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think it was one of those things where, he started it here and we had taken it to here. I saw the vision. He'd been in it 27 years, and he was really passionate about business coaching and doing a lot of motivational speaking in his books and things like that. And so I think he was ready to take that career path. And so I think if we were going to take it from here to here, it was going to take a lot of time, a lot of investment, a lot of things that we needed to do. And I think he was like, you know what? I think it's in good hands. We've grown it. It's maybe time to move on and do the things I want to do. And so, we did the transition from himself to me in a week.
Wow.
Holy. Well, you were already GM at that point.
Yeah.
You'd already been.
Yeah.
What's the GM do for the realtors, or what, like, in that company?
Yeah. Well,
everything.
Clean your bathrooms.
Kind of,
Yeah, I guess we covered
whatever
that.
needs to be done. I think we had a staff of, honestly, we had 315. We got up to about 340 agents before Van left, before I bought the company. But that was about a year. We started to decline. Our agents started getting out of the business, in about 2008, and because you could start to see where the real estate market was declining, the stock market, and then you had Bear Stearns, and you had all these things that were happening. So our OABR membership went from about 2,700 realtors down to about 1,800. So we got up to about 340. Then when I bought it, it was just over 300. And over the next year or year and a half, we were down to probably 240 agents. And that was just indicative of the time.
Just where the market was.
And then we've, taken it from that point to where we are now. But what does a GM do? I guess that was the title.
I don't, because I think of realtors as independent contractors, because essentially that's what they are, right?
Yep, that's
right.
So,
I guess what does the GM do for these independent contractors?
Well, so we're the managers, right? So we almost have two titles. We struggle with this even today because from an agent's perspective, they want, the term would be managing broker. We have 9 or 10 managing brokers with us today. So these are the people that they would go to train and support, that are there to help them. We've got trainers, so support, technology, marketing, the finance piece of it, the operational piece, day to day. What do we do from the time that a listing gets in the door to create procedures and processes for accounting, to pay people out, to facilitate disputes that might happen between agents or brokers. All the things that you see as a consumer on the front end, it's like ducks on a pond, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't just take a house and great, we're going to put it on the market. Well, what does that mean?
Sure.
Yep.
Well, there's processes and technology and contracts and marketing and negotiation and accounting and things that happen all down that line. And so you've got to take that on a daily basis. So this year, for example, we've got just shy of 800 agents. And we'll do 6,000, closed real estate transactions this year. So imagine that. I mean, this is generally somebody's largest purchase or sale, or it's an investment or whatever it is. And all the moving parts, Alex, that go into a real estate transaction. And now take the technology that seemingly changes every day.
Yep.
And communications to agents and all the things that they have to know about the industry, legal, governmental affairs, all of these things that happen. Real estate is 20% of our GDP, both statewide and nationally. I mean, when you think of a $20 trillion economy,
sure,
right? And we're 20% from a real estate perspective, it's a huge piece. So all the moving parts that go with that. So that's why almost, Silicon Valley has been trying to, and they still, the VC money that's coming into real estate right now is ridiculous, right? Because they want to capture that and they want to try to see what they can do to insert themselves. But, our industry is so intensely personal. 80% of what we do is dealing with emotions and helping people and being
You're a psychologist.
You are.
Yeah.
It's not always the technical aspect. It's, walking people through what is a really stressful, it can be a stressful, important, exciting, fun time of their life, but there's all these different emotions. So we deal a lot with that. So I guess in short, it's the long answer to say,
a lot of shit.
The COO and the designated broker deal a lot. So.
What's that kind of brings me to, the bubble. Everyone thinks this bubble is going to burst at some point. And I heard 2018, 2019, 2020, and it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. What do you see for the future of real estate? Sure. Omaha, I know our inventory is minute right now. What do we have? 800,000 houses in inventory?
Yeah, we got Douglas and Sarpy, we're about 750. And then if you put new construction in there, you're probably around 1,200.
Yeah. That's nothing for the size of our city.
It's gone down. It is. I'll give you an example. So at the peak, right before in 2008, before we kind of had the crash, we were about 6,500 homes on the market. Well, now in Omaha, we're about probably 1,400.
Why is that? Why are there so few homes?
So this is a great answer for, you talk about a bubble. So people are worried about the bubble. So for the last 8 years, we've had this incredible run on appreciation and number of homes, right? So
my house included.
Yeah.
So in Omaha, over the last 8 years, about 6% on average a year, which is really probably more than double the annual rate of appreciation in the Omaha area. Omaha is a great market because in slow times we maybe depreciate 2 or 3%. In good times we'd probably appreciate 2 or 3%. But we were steady. You look at places like Miami or Las Vegas or wherever.
All over the place.
Yeah, they might go up 20% in a year, but then they'll go down 20% when something affects tourism. Right.
Yep.
We're very diverse business climate. We've got a stable, a lot of transportation, logistics, insurance, finance. These are stable type of jobs. And if you look at Omaha over the last 20 years, look at how far we've come. We have a great chamber. We've got great business leaders in this town. And Lincoln is the same way. So we've really come a long way. And over the next 20 years, the chamber projects, based on what they're looking at, that we're going to need, their 2040 is another 400,000 employees to meet the demand of employers, right? Well, that's double the annual growth rate of Omaha. And one of the big problems is housing. And housing is a national problem. A shortage is a national problem, a local and a statewide problem. And especially right now with new construction, we cannot get enough affordable housing back in the market. And we've been beating this drum for a long time.
Yep.
But the reason that I don't think a bubble is imminent, even given economic times, and I think, COVID obviously changes rules on things, but we've been pretty fortunate. In fact, we might break records for home sales this year, even through COVID.
That's insane.
How is that possible? That's that
It
idea is
didn't
just
really
crazy
move.
to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's, unlike the recession in 2008, the real estate market has been the driver to lead us out. I think that what happened was, and we looked, so starting in March, right when kind of everything hit, I said, okay, we're going to start keeping numbers on a daily basis. How many active listings are we putting in? How many contracts or homes are we putting under contract? How many properties are closing? And we normally do that on like a weekly to monthly basis. So we expected, hey, when is this going to fall off? You got 30 or 50 million unemployment or whatever, whatever it was projected to be. And it never did in our city. I think we were fortunate in that we're in Nebraska and it wasn't New York, right?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I think our governor and our state leaders did a good job of saying, look, here's the restrictions we need to have, but we're not going to 100% close down. And so it was just steady. We had some challenges. We didn't do open houses for a while and things like that.
Right.
But the interesting thing was it never fell off the cliff. And then about May 1st, all of a sudden, boom, it was like a spigot. It just opened up. And the 250 and under price range for the last few years has been incredibly competitive. I mean, multiple offers in a matter of hours, prices being well over list
Asking
price, that
yeah.
kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
been that kind of market, right?
Yes.
But what was different this year is you'd started to see the high-priced homes that were doing that. I mean, $1 million plus properties that were selling in a day or two.
What?
And that didn't happen in the Omaha market.
Never had one of those listings.
Any day now.
Any day, I'm just
day.
waiting.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
waiting. Anybody out there?
Anybody listening right now, Alex is looking for a $1 million
$1
listing.
And he can sell it in a day.
In a day.
Easily.
One day. Let's
Okay.
go. Let's
Blink
do
of an
this.
eye.
So I think people were taking advantage of the fact that, I would say, unfortunately, for service-oriented workers, COVID probably disproportionately hurt them worse, obviously, restaurants and hotels and
Right.
things like that. Workers that probably were not in the service industry, many of them were okay with their jobs, and they had a lot of equity if they'd been in their home for quite some time. They had equity built up, and interest rates are stupid low. I mean, they're sub 3.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think what people said, if I got to spend a lot more time at home, and I've been thinking about pulling the trigger for a while, I'm going to pull the trigger now.
Yep.
I can get quite a bit out of my home. I might, pay for it on the other end, but this is the time because we've been wanting a pool. We want the home office. We want more space. And I think that's what happened to a degree. If you felt solid in your job, you took advantage of economic conditions with low interest rates and probably a lot of equity in your home to purchase. And that's what's happened. And the reason that I don't think you're going to see a bubble imminent is because a few years ago, millennials started to enter the real estate market en masse after a delay from the recession. Baby boomers are getting to the point where they're starting to, hey, I've been in this 4,500 square foot two-story for 35 years. I want to downsize.
Yep.
And then investors over the last several years have gotten into the market en masse, and they're buy and hold instead of flip. So they're buying rental properties because they see the appreciation and the rental rates have been
Right.
high.
Yep.
So you've got these 3 large purchasing groups that are all entering and vying for the same type of properties. And so that's sucked all the inventory out, and we can't put enough new construction affordably in there because cost for construction from development of lots, acquisition of the property, labor, materials. I mean, lumber's gone up 400% since April.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah.
All-time high right now.
Yeah. So
insane.
you throw all this together,
insane.
and that's where we've got really high demand, we've got really low inventory. So until you start seeing those inventory creep up a little bit, I don't think you're going to see a bubble at any point. I mean, and the Fed, they're not going to raise rates for some time.
Yeah.
So I think 2021 is going to be another good year to take advantage, and I don't think there would be any kind of bubble for a few years if there was one.
Good.
Do you think the days of like the smaller celebrity, split entry home are finished? Like, you just don't see those being built
Yeah.
anymore. Like they're,
Yeah.
and I think that's where it seems like nobody
Starter homes aren't
like,
really
yeah.
starter homes anymore.
Well, they're not, but I give the analogy a lot. So imagine if you moved out to Denver and you said, "Well, I want to buy a $150,000 house." What would the realtor tell you out there?
probably laugh at you.
Good luck.
They would laugh at
Yeah,
you, right?
yeah.
So Omaha, over the last decade, we were really undervalued for our community, frankly. And it was really affordable. We are an affordable community still, but that's eroding a little bit. Taxes obviously hurt in our state and affect that. But 8-10 years ago, to your point, you could buy a brand new construction Celebrity, split entry, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage, quarter-acre lot, 120, 125,000, 130, right? And now those same properties, they'll 210. And just going up.
That's literally my house.
Yeah, you just
awesome.
described
it's
Alex
awesome, right?
to-
Yeah, it's good for me.
It's great because we bought our house in 2010. It was a Hearthstone home, and ours is appreciated a lot. But you get all that appreciation, but you're still paying for it for the next house.
True.
That's where our debate has always been is to get that next house is just beyond the reach.
Yeah.
So we just don't quite make enough money together to really
get what
that
you want.
next home.
Right. You could, but are you making more of a lateral move than you want? You really want the step up.
Yeah. And we're like, because we have enough space, Hearthstones were always known for these huge
big houses,
floor plans, and so really we have enough space. We've upgraded, as much as we can for the most part. And we're like, we like our house. If we can't get to that next house, so be it.
Well, you're part of the problem.
Yeah, I am. You're not the first person to tell me that.
We need you to sell your house, please. Yeah.
You are the problem.
Well, that's just it. My buddy works for McNeil, McNeil Builders, and he thought about breaking off and doing his own thing, and I was like, you should. Maybe the niche is starter homes because no one's really doing it at an affordable price. And he's like, that's a problem. You can't build them less than $200,000.
There's no margin.
He's like, everything would have to be extremely perfect to make money on those houses. Because I'm like, couldn't you just bulk it out like Celebrity does and, order thing in mass quantities? And he's like, I still don't even think you could do it that way and make one under $200,000.
He's right. It is the only way you can do it. And this is what we've been, and actually we're trying to do. We're trying to be part of the solution, not just say what the problem is. And so we're working on some developments for this, but villa, no maintenance villas, townhomes, those type. What we're going to have to do in order to correct this problem for entry level is you're not going to be able to buy the quarter-acre lot Celebrity home that you were describing that you live in, right? Yeah. It's got to be higher density, because the problem with being able to say, well, can't we just go out and mass produce these? Well, first of all, Celebrity owned a lot of the land for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Secondly, they've worked with a lot of the contractors, and they've got them on, in bulk, so they'll guarantee them work. Whereas if I'm just a builder that's going to go out and build 10 homes a year, you're probably going to pay a premium to get contractors in because they are at a premium right now. And they're going to say, well, if I'm going to go off that job who guarantees me work for the next 5 years, then I'm going to have to make a hell of a lot of money over on this side, right? And so there's a shortage of contractors. Materials are super high. Even development of lots. When it costs you 40 or 45 grand just to develop a lot before you even turn around and sell it as a developer to somebody else, you're already behind the 8 ball here, right? So we're trying to be a solution that's, how do you fix that? Well, it's going to have to be a change of mindset. It's going to have to be that the starter home isn't always going to be that 3-bed, 2-bath, quarter-acre lot, two garage, right? It's going to be row-style houses, brownstones, which are starting to pop up here. Townhomes, attached wall, so some villas, smaller lots, apartment-style condos, and manufactured housing, where we're going to have to get away from our mindset of 20 years ago that a manufactured house is just a trailer that they set on a foundation. It's not. It's something that there's companies out there, they build them in factories, they've got all kinds of floor plans, they're very well engineered and built, and then they bring them out on site, and it takes them maybe 60 days to assemble and attach and do all these things, but you couldn't tell the difference between that and a stick-built home.
Sure.
So instead of taking 9 or 10 months to build a home, now we're taking 60 days to build a home. So we got higher density, so we can keep the lot prices down, we can build them quicker, and those are the things that are going to help us solve the problem. But we got to change our mindset a little bit.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but maybe Omaha or Midwest mentality, condo living, I think is a hard concept to grasp because everyone's used to having space. like myself and you included probably enjoy that space. And so if you're like, yeah, condo is your only option, I would still not be okay with that. You know, like where's the value for me? I need space.
It's the American dream mindset
Right.
of having that white picket fence in
Yep.
the backyard to throw the football around with your kids.
I completely agree, and you're spot on with that. It is, and that's why I think the condo market, you know, it was booming for a while in the early 2000s in downtown, and then it cooled off with a lot of the recession and stuff.
Yep.
But it's not, downtown Omaha is not downtown Chicago or New York or whatever, right? And I think, so to that point, what's going to happen if you want that, and what we're going to start to see is more bedroom communities be popular. So, you know, Elkhorn was that
Yep.
10, 15, 20 years ago. And Gretna, and they've really starting to grow, right?
Yep.
So now your communities are Bennington, Ashland, Utan, Springfield,
moving on.
Louisville, you know, Waterloo. It's going to be these places that are outside of town that it might take you 20 or 30 minutes, but I think people will. If you said, that is my dream, the white picket fence, and I want the yard. And I think you're going to be able to find some of those deals out there, but you're probably, in a lot of cases, going to have to go out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've always looked in Elkhorn because my wife is always looking, always on Realtor, you know, just always looking.
She's always on NebraskaRealty.com.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
absolutely.
I
And-
have her on a search, but they're very specific for what they're looking
Well,
for.
part
so
of it
it's-
is because there's no
you got to bump the price.
expediency. There's no pressure at all. So we're like, why not look for that perfect home?
Yeah.
Because we can stay where we are and it's just fine, or we can put in these super specific parameters, and then if the right thing pops up, you know, we're ready to jump on it.
I agree. That's what I would do.
Yeah. So part of it for us is staying in Elkhorn because the schools.
Right.
And so, but once we get past that point in our life, you know, we could look anywhere
Go where?
potentially.
Well, that's what I did. I mean, I just moved. I'm in Elkhorn. My kids go to Skyline and Ranch View, or we're in Ranch View. They go to Skyline and then Elkhorn Valley View, and you know, we've got, our family has expanded, so we needed more space. So we did the same thing. We said, okay, it's got to be right here, and you know, the perfect opportunity came up for us. You know, to your point. So
Where'd you move to?
2 blocks down the road.
Oh, really? Nice. Are you in the prairies?
No, we're in
No.
Ranch View
Oh,
still.
you're still
yeah,
in
we
Ranch
went to, yeah, it just,
Okay.
it had a pool, so.
That's
Yeah.
gotta have that.
Well, so quick on the pool. I mean, I talked to one friend that they bought a house last year with a pool. She asked a company that's maintaining it, how many pools do you normally bid in a typical year? And they said about 30. She said, well, how many have you bid this year? 400.
Oh,
Holy cow.
it doesn't. Well, yeah, you couldn't go to a pool this summer.
It's, you know, and when you sell a house, it used to be a liability. Now it is
Right.
an absolute, I mean, that is a huge
Premium.
amenity. Yeah.
Well, and
Really?
pools today aren't what they were 20 years ago. They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, with lighting, and people have grottos now. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
but-
but you know, I mean, they wouldn't even. Pools have doubled in the last couple of years. I mean, that basic pool that used to cost you $35,000 and now costs you $75,000.
it's insane.
Well, I remember when we were playing golf at the Players Club, and we were on a particular hole, and on that hole alone, there was 3 pools being put in of houses that backed up to the golf course, and I was like, "Geez, like." It's the same guys. They're just walking from that backyard to the backyard 3
Yeah.
houses down.
That would be the business to be in, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, there's not a lot of good contractors for pools out there. You know, I won't
There's
mention
just a
names,
hand-
but
there's just a few.
you know, the blue collar industry has done really well through COVID.
Yep.
You know, I used to own a lawn and landscape business, and you know, I talked to my old business partner, and I mean, they're crushing this year.
Really?
You know,
Yeah,
everyone's
landscape
reinvesting in their house.
In their house.
You know, so it's crazy times.
I have one kind
Burning
of
question.
I have a question. Talking about, you said you had 800 people or 800 realtors, and they're all basically like private contractors.
Mm-hmm.
How do you manage the branding? Like, how do you keep that so tight knit? Because
Right.
I would be worried as a business owner of that magnitude, of these people that are on their own to a certain degree,
Yeah.
like keeping the brand of Nebraska Realty so good?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's tough. I mean, that's what I think. That's one of the biggest challenges I love working with independent contractors. They're entrepreneurial, they're business minded. From a business owner's perspective, it's nice. I mean, it's easier working with 800 independent contractors than it would be with 800 employees when you have HR issues and all the things you deal with. So there's a lot of advantages, but one of the disadvantages is that, I mean, you cannot guarantee across the board. Like, I can't bring in an agent. We do. I mean, we've got great training programs. We put great structure on things. We tell people, here's what we need. Here's our brand standards. Here's how we do things. And so you try to get that consistency of service and marketing across the board.
Right.
At the same time, I mean, people come from all walks of life, all different perspectives into the industry. Some of them, 20, 30 years in corporate, and now I'm going to do this. And some are right out of college, and now I'm going to, it's all different.
Right.
And I guess the answer is that that's part of what the general manager and and all the staff. I mean, we have a staff of about 35 to 40 with our business entities.
Wow,
that everything from marketing to training to new construction to legal, all of the things that a lot of the service tech oriented stuff. We're constantly out there looking at social media, how people are doing. We have our sales meetings. We teach over 100 training classes a year. We have what we call our agent academy. So we do all kinds of things. Our agent groups online. Hey guys, we're starting to see this. Just make sure we're here. But yeah, are there those times where they're outside of the bounds of the Nebraska Real Estate Commission that might have? Yeah, and that's when you sometimes we'll get a case, so-and-so wasn't quite in compliance or whatever, and then you reach out. I mean, and 99% of people are really good. They don't do things intentionally.
Because it's their own brand too.
It's their brand, right? And that's how our company was founded 26 years ago. I mean, Mr. Deeb founded it on the fact that the agent is the core of the company. They're the reason the company's successful, and we want them to put their name in lights, and we want to be just part of that. So that is a little bit of a balance there. But I think when you like the brand, then you want to display the brand, and you want to be proud of it.
Yeah.
I've seen over the years, there's some agents that just, they go so far with their own brand. They talk about how great the company is and the company, and yet they'll put the company logo so you need cheaters to see it way down in the corner of the website. Yeah. Well, you should want to display that and be proud of it. I think most people are proud of our brand. I think it resonates with the state.
Yes.
And so if it's a benefit to the agent to display your brand, then I'm going to do it.
I think the coolest thing about Nebraska Realty is.
And then we got to end on this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've never heard one bad thing said about Nebraska Realty. And, I'm a part of it, but you'll hear other companies, people like, oh, they did this or that. I've never heard one negative thing or against you. Everyone's like, Andy's the best. He's so chill. And, I like that you're kind of a down-to-earth guy because, you suit up, but I can tell, like, you're more of a board shorts, like, backwards hat, like, that makes you more authentic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think people gravitate towards that.
And think about all the street cred he's going to have after being on this podcast.
On the brother side. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I'm going to have to start coming with board shorts and backwards hat.
No, but it's you've done a great job. You have any last burning questions?
No. I feel like we could keep going.
Do we dare talk about Chuck Burney or just leave
I
that
think
for
we
the
gotta
next
wrap
one?
it up.
That'd be a whole podcast itself.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
He's a creature, man. I mean, he's a whole different. Chuck is fantastic.
Well, we'll end on that. Thanks for coming on today, Andy. We really appreciate it.
Super interesting. That
Thanks
was
for
awesome.
having me. I appreciate it.
I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, thanks.
Till next time.